Never allow someone to be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option. Let that sink in for a moment. How often do we find ourselves giving so much of our energy, attention, and care to people who don't reciprocate it? It's easy to lose ourselves in the effort of trying to make someone else happy, but we must remember that our value isn't determined by how much we're willing to give, especially to those who only see us as an option. We are worth so much more than being someone's afterthought. Life has a way of teaching us this in the most unexpected moments, but those lessons become clearer when we start to prioritize our own worth. The most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. Think about that. There's a moment, a revelation that comes for each of us when we realize what we are here to do, who we are meant to become. That purpose can sometimes feel elusive, but it's always there, waiting for us to discover it. The search for that meaning is what drives us forward, fills our days with anticipation, and fuels our desire to become more than we ever thought we could. It's not always easy, and it's certainly not always clear. But when we find it, it's like a light that shines within us, guiding our every step. The more we learn about people, the more we might start to appreciate the simplicity of companionship that asks for nothing in return, like that of a dog. There's something profound in that quiet loyalty, in knowing that we don't have to perform or pretend. It's a reminder that real connection doesn't demand anything other than presence and care. And as we navigate the complexities of human relationships, it's important to remember that not everyone will lift us up. Keep away from people who try to belittle your ambitions. We've all encountered those who try to make us feel small, as if our dreams are too big or too far-fetched. But it's the ones who believe in us, who inspire us to believe in ourselves, that we need to surround ourselves with. Those are the people who remind us of our potential, who help us see that we, too, can become great. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. There's something powerful in stepping back and asking ourselves if we are truly following our own path, or if we're just going with the flow because it's easier. Truth often exists in the spaces where few dare to look, and it's in those moments of reflection that we grow. When we tell the truth, we don't have to remember anything. It frees us. It simplifies life because there's no need for cover-ups, no need to keep track of what was said. Living with honesty not only makes life clearer, but it also builds a foundation of trust with those around us. Noise proves nothing. Often, a hen who has laid an egg cackles as if she had laid an asteroid. Isn't that the way it often is? The loudest voices are not always the ones with the most substance. We should be wary of those who shout the loudest but say the least. And never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. It's a lesson in restraint, in knowing when to walk away. Sometimes, the smartest thing we can do is refuse to engage. Wrinkles should merely indicate where the smiles have been. Each line on our face is a map of our laughter, our joy, our experiences. It's easy to dread aging, to wish we could hold on to our youth, but every year, every wrinkle, every memory is a testament to a life lived. We shouldn't complain about growing old because it's a privilege denied to many. Too often, we forget this truth in our rush to stay young, but aging is a sign of life, of survival, of stories yet to be told. Kindness is a language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. In a world where we are often encouraged to put ourselves first, it's kindness that breaks through barriers. It doesn't take much to offer a kind word, a helping hand, or a moment of understanding. And in those small acts, we create ripples that spread far beyond what we can see. It's better to be an optimist who is sometimes wrong than a pessimist who is almost always right. Life is too short to spend it expecting the worst. By trying, we learn to endure adversity, to face challenges with a mindset that says, "This too shall pass." No woman or man truly knows what perfect love is until they have been married a quarter of a century. There's a depth to love that only time can reveal, a richness that comes from weathering life's storms together. It's not the fairy tale love we are sold in stories, but something far deeper, far more lasting. If everyone was satisfied with themselves, there would be no heroes. It's the desire to become more, to do more, to leave a legacy that drives us to become the best versions of ourselves. We meet people who forget us, and we forget people we meet. But every so often, we come across those rare individuals we can't forget. Those are our true friends, the ones who leave a lasting imprint on our hearts. Concerning the difference between man and the jackass, some observers might say there isn't much of one, but that's a disservice to the jackass. The truth is, we are all flawed, we all stumble, but it's in those imperfections that we find our humanity. Why do we tend to want something even more when it's just out of reach? It's a question that speaks to one of the most intriguing quirks of human nature. When a goal or an object seems just beyond our grasp, suddenly it becomes irresistible. It could be a promotion, a material item, or even a personal relationship. Once it feels difficult to attain, it draws us in like a magnet. The act of striving becomes more compelling than the reward. And isn't this the same with opportunities we overlook? Take the simple act of reading. A man who doesn't read is in the same position as one who can't. In both cases, the world of knowledge stays closed, not because of inability, but because of neglect. Every day, we have choices to make that either open doors or leave them forever shut. Now, let's think about another thing we often overlook: April 1st. It comes and goes, marked as a day of jokes and pranks. But it's actually a subtle reminder of something much deeper. This day highlights the fact that we often carry a little foolishness within us, not just on that one day, but throughout the entire year. We sometimes take ourselves too seriously, thinking we're fully in control of life's outcomes. But moments of self-awareness, those flashes where we laugh at our own imperfections, bring us back to reality. Consider the role of a banker in this context. There's a well-known saying that a banker is someone who lends you an umbrella when the weather is perfect, but takes it back the moment the storm rolls in. It's a sharp metaphor for the kinds of support systems we often rely on. When life is smooth, help is abundant, but in times of struggle, we're sometimes left exposed. This makes us think, who truly stands by us when the rain starts to pour? When it comes to dealing with mistakes, here's something powerful to consider. There's immense strength in admitting our faults without hesitation. Acknowledging our shortcomings, rather than hiding them, can catch people off guard. It's disarming, and in a strange way, it gives us control. Those in authority expect defensiveness or excuses, but when we openly accept responsibility, it shifts the dynamic. We regain power by being honest, and that honesty can earn us respect, that even in situations where we've faltered. As we explore the nature of human beings, it's fascinating to realize that our intellect allows us to differentiate between right and wrong. This sets us apart from other living creatures. Yet, with all that knowledge, we often find ourselves morally conflicted. The very fact that we can make wrong choices, despite knowing better, highlights a struggle that other creatures never experience. Animals act on instinct, without the internal battle between right and wrong that we face daily. For us, this tension between our potential for good and our frequent missteps defines the human experience. Then, there's the question of age and perspective. Have you ever noticed that someone who becomes a pessimist before they reach 48 might seem to know too much? They've likely seen enough of life's challenges to lose a bit of hope. But here's the flip side. If someone remains overly optimistic after 48, we might think they've learned too little from life's ups and downs. It's a delicate balance we all have to navigate as we grow older. Do we allow ourselves to be hardened by experience, or do we stay open to possibility, even when it feels risky? Here's something that may surprise you. One of the quickest ways to create an enemy is by doing a stranger an unexpected favor. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? You'd think kindness would always be met with gratitude, but often it's not. When we help someone we don't know well, it can sometimes leave them with an uncomfortable sense of obligation. Rather than feeling appreciative, they might feel uneasy or even resentful. It's one of life's strange ironies. Sometimes, good deeds come with unintended consequences. And that brings us to forgiveness. There's a beautiful metaphor that describes forgiveness as the scent a flower leaves on the heel that crushed it. Think about that for a moment. It's not just about letting go of hurt. It's about transforming that pain into something sweet and lasting. True forgiveness doesn't deny the harm that was done. It rises above it, leaving behind grace instead of bitterness. If you've got a tough task in front of you, don't waste time thinking about how unpleasant it is. Just tackle it head on. Procrastination only makes it worse, and the longer you stare at that frog you need to swallow, the harder it becomes to take action. This idea applies to our health too. Maintaining our well-being often means doing the things we least want to do, whether it's eating food that isn't our favorite, drinking something we'd rather not, or engaging in exercise when we'd prefer to relax. But, as with many things in life, the discomfort we face today leads to the rewards of tomorrow. And speaking of scarcity, consider this. They're not making any more land. It's a finite resource, reminding us that the things we take for granted might not always be there. Building discipline is another key to living a full life. One golden rule is to do something each day that you don't particularly want to do. This habit strengthens your ability to face challenges head-on without the emotional resistance that often holds us back. Over time, it transforms discomfort into growth, creating resilience and a sense of mastery over our own lives. Life is brief, but it's packed with moments that count. Don't be afraid to bend the rules from time to time. Offer forgiveness freely. Savor the moments of affection. Kiss slowly, love deeply, and never hold back your laughter. Let go of regret and cherish the things that once brought you joy. Because in the end, it's those moments of connection and happiness that make life truly worth living. The lack of money is the root of all evil. This quote strikes a chord, doesn't it? We all understand the weight of financial struggles, the pressure it puts on our shoulders, and how it can make us act out of desperation. But let's pause for a moment and recognize something even deeper. The evil isn't always in the lack itself, but in how we react to it. When we feel deprived, we often lose sight of our values, of what matters most. And that's where the real challenge lies. Not just in the struggle for money, but in our relationship with it. How we let it influence our behavior, our decisions, and our sense of self-worth. Always obey your parents when they are present. This is the best policy in the long run because if you don't, they will make you. It's one of those lessons that seems simple on the surface, but is layered with wisdom. Our parents, whether we realize it or not, shape us in ways we sometimes resist. We often want independence to make our own decisions, and that's natural. But think about how often we look back and recognize that their advice, though frustrating in the moment, was born from experience. It's not about blind obedience, but about respect. About understanding that their guidance often comes from a place of love and wisdom. Wisdom they've earned through years of living, making mistakes, and learning from them. Worrying is like paying a debt you don't owe. How many of us spend nights turning over endless what-ifs in our minds, as though our anxiety could somehow prevent future mishaps. Worry doesn't change outcomes, but it does rob us of peace in the present. It's like holding on to a heavy burden that weighs us down, even though it doesn't belong to us. We can't control everything, and that's a hard truth to swallow. But by acknowledging it, we start to reclaim our peace, our mental space, our ability to act with clarity rather than fear. Looking ahead, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. That's a thought that sticks, doesn't it? How many opportunities have we passed up out of fear? How often have we hesitated, worried about failing or making the wrong choice, only to later regret not trying at all? The truth is, life isn't about perfection. It's about movement. It's about stepping forward, sometimes stumbling, but always learning. When we choose to act, we create momentum. We give ourselves the chance to grow, to discover, and to truly live without the heavy weight of what could have been. There is no easy or quick plan to happiness. Isn't that the truth? We live in a world that promises shortcuts, instant gratification, fast success, quick fixes. But true happiness, the kind that lasts, is built slowly. It's not a destination but a journey, one that requires patience, effort, and persistence. It's found in the small moments of connection, the daily acts of kindness, the gradual building of a life that aligns with our deepest values. We need to stop searching for the perfect moment to start, because as the saying goes, where you are right now is the best place to begin. There's power in the present moment. Right here, right now, we have everything we need to start crafting a better future. Everyone is the moon and has a dark side which he never shows to anybody. Isn't it fascinating? We all carry parts of ourselves that we hide, even from those closest to us. It's not because we're deceitful, but because we fear judgment, rejection, misunderstanding. And yet, those hidden parts, our vulnerabilities, our fears, our insecurities, are what make us human. The more we embrace them, the more we realize that everyone else has their own dark side too. Compassion grows when we understand that beneath the surface, we are all struggling with something. Of all the animals, man is the only one that is cruel. He is the only one that inflicts pain for the pleasure of doing it. This speaks to the darker side of human nature, doesn't it? But let's not get stuck in cynicism. Cruelty exists, yes, but so does kindness, empathy, and compassion. We have the capacity for both, and it's up to us to decide which side we nurture. Every day, we make choices that either contribute to the pain or to the healing of the world. By choosing compassion, by choosing kindness, we are actively pushing back against that cruelty. Circumstances make man, not man circumstances. It's easy to feel like we are shaped by our surroundings, by what happens to us. But we have more power than we realize. We may not be able to control what happens, but we can control how we respond. Our character, our strength, our resilience, they're all formed in the fires of adversity. When we face hardship, we are given the opportunity to grow, to rise above, to become something greater than our circumstances would suggest. Man was made at the end of the week's work, when God was tired. There's humor in this, but also humility. We are imperfect beings, prone to mistakes, to flaws, and yet there's beauty in that imperfection. We were created with purpose, even in our brokenness. It's not about being flawless, it's about striving to be better, to learn, to evolve. The truth must be served like a coat and not thrown in the face like a wet towel. Truth is powerful, but it must be delivered with care. When we force our version of reality onto others, we create resistance, conflict. But when we offer truth with understanding, with kindness, it has the potential to transform. It's about timing, about delivery, about meeting people where they are, rather than where we think they should be. The trouble is not in dying for a friend, but in finding a friend worth dying for. True friendship is rare and valuable. It's not about quantity, but quality. It's about finding those people who see us, who support us, who challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. They are the ones who stick by us, not just in moments of joy, but in the depths of our struggles. Man will do many things to be adored, but when it comes to envy, he'll go to even greater lengths. It's as if we're constantly measuring ourselves against the world, eager for someone else's jealousy to confirm that we've arrived. We get lost in the need for recognition, doing anything to stand out, to be noticed. And yet, there's a hollowness in that pursuit. Envy may seem like admiration, but it's built on a fragile foundation, one that can crumble the moment we step away from the applause. When we talk about beauty, it's often reduced to the surface. A glance, a first impression. But true beauty, the kind that lingers in our minds long after we've walked away, reveals itself slowly. A beautiful woman doesn't just captivate with her appearance. As we spend time with her, we begin to notice the quiet elegance in her movements, the subtle wisdom in her words, the strength she holds behind her smile. Only through deeper acquaintance do we really see her. It's the same with life. The richness, the value, is only uncovered when we take the time to look beyond the surface. But we're often too quick to speak, to fill the silence with noise. How many times have we regretted the words we let slip in haste? It's wiser sometimes to hold our tongues and leave others guessing, rather than to speak too soon and remove all doubt. Silence carries its own kind of power. It allows space for thought, reflection, and most importantly, growth. When we rush to fill the void with unnecessary chatter, we miss the opportunity to listen, to truly understand. Our efforts in life, the work we put into this world, may seem modest compared to the great achievements of others. But think of it this way. Our works are like water, essential, life-sustaining, and pure. The works of the great masters, they may be like wine, rich, aged, full of complexity, but everyone drinks water. It's vital. So rather than diminish our own contributions, we should recognize that what we do holds value in its own right, even if it looks different from the accomplishments we admire. Death. Why do we fear it? We've been dead for billions of years before we were born, and we never experienced the slightest discomfort from it. Life is fleeting, yes, but death is simply a return to the stillness from which we came. We spend so much time dreading the end, forgetting that the real tragedy isn't death but a life half-lived. The man who lives fully, who embraces every moment, isn't afraid of dying because he's already lived more than enough. Truth can be a tricky thing. A half-truth is perhaps the most cowardly lie of all because it hides behind a veneer of honesty while leading us astray. When we seek love, it's easy to approach it with cleverness, with calculated moves. But real love? That's something we have to pursue with our hearts. We have to be vulnerable, to be willing to open ourselves up in ways that aren't always comfortable. Only then can we find the love that lasts. And when we choose to do the right thing, even when it's difficult, we stand out. We become a beacon in a world that often chooses the easier path. People would rather cling to a comfortable lie than face the discomfort of having been fooled. It's human nature. We resist change, especially when it challenges our beliefs. And yet, as people, we need a moral compass. Even bad morals are better than none, because they at least provide us with some sense of direction, some code to live by. Without that, we're adrift, lost in a sea of uncertainty. When we make promises, they carry weight. It's better to have made a promise and broken it than to have never made one at all. Promises, even when they fall apart, show our intent. They show that we were willing to try. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. It's not about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear, acknowledging it, and choosing to act anyway. We've all heard the saying that actions speak louder than words, but it's fear that speaks the loudest, though not as often as it should. The fear of death stems from the fear of life itself. When we haven't lived fully, death seems like a thief coming to steal what little we have. But the person who has embraced life, really embraced it, isn't afraid of death. They're ready because they've already tasted all that life has to offer. Before we even think of distorting the facts, we must first gather them. Anger, if left unchecked, becomes like an acid that destroys from the inside out. It eats away at the vessel that holds it far more than it harms whatever it's directed at. And though we often chase after money, believing it holds the key to respectability, virtue will always stand higher. Money may be powerful, but it will never hold the same dignity as moral character. Few things are as frustrating as the constant reminder of a good example. It challenges us, forces us to rise above our comfort zone, and that discomfort can be irritating. Yet how often do we focus on changing the habits of others when the real work needs to happen within ourselves? We're quick to point out the flaws in others, quick to suggest how they might improve. But the real reform begins when we turn that lens inward. It's the small, simple things that bring the greatest joy, especially when we feel we've earned them. When we achieve something through effort, no matter how minor, it fills us with a satisfaction that's hard to describe. And emotions, when they are genuine, are often beyond our control. They rise up in us, raw and unfiltered, revealing the truest parts of who we are. There's a beauty in that honesty, in allowing ourselves to feel deeply without restraint. Embrace life in its entirety, the beauty, the silence, the fear, the truth. Let's not be afraid to live fully, to love deeply, to act courageously, and to appreciate the simple joy of having earned our place in this world. Have you ever stopped to wonder what truly matters in the way we live our lives? A man may steer clear of bad habits, but can still harbor worse habits that don't present themselves as obvious but slowly erode us from the inside. And isn't it ironic how hard we often work for the approval of others, bending over backwards to secure their validation? Yet our own approval, our own self-respect, is the one that's most elusive. No amount of external validation can ever measure up to the peace that comes from approving of ourselves. But how many of us truly do? The human race has one remarkably effective tool for navigating the complexities of life: laughter. It's not just a reaction to something funny, it's a survival skill. When things get overwhelming, when the pressure builds, laughter is what allows us to step back, to breathe, and to remind ourselves that no situation has ultimate power over us. It's a release, and in many ways, it's our greatest defense mechanism. We often hear, if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed. It's a statement that carries more weight than we may realize. We're bombarded with opinions, half-truths, and narratives designed to manipulate our thoughts. The truth, if we're being honest, isn't always easily found. That's why we need to develop a kind of discernment that allows us to sift through the noise and recognize what resonates with our own inner compass. But life isn't just about working hard or chasing approval. It's also about embracing the moments we often overlook. When we work like we don't need the money, when we dance as though no one is watching, and when we love as if we've never been hurt, that's when we're truly alive. It's in those moments that we tap into something deeper. Yet, we all know how quickly life moves from one worry to the next. Just when we think we've found peace, something else comes along to disturb it. How about the way we view others, especially as we grow older? When we're young, we often think we know it all. As children, our parents may seem out of touch, even foolish. But as we age, we come to realize that wisdom doesn't appear in the form of lectures or rigid rules. It appears in the quiet moments of reflection. We find ourselves astonished by how much our elders knew all along. The older we get, the more we recognize that a sound heart often knows better than an ill-trained conscience. The decisions we make based on love, empathy, and understanding often guide us more surely than any set of rules. When we're on our deathbeds, it won't be the accolades or accomplishments we'll regret missing. No, it will be the moments of love we left unshared, the experiences we didn't embrace. There's no such thing as an ordinary life. Each life is extraordinary in its own right. The memories we create, even those tarnished by time and hardship, become beautiful in their own way as the minor annoyances fade. Conscience, they say, takes up more room in us than all our other faculties combined. Isn't that interesting? It's what we carry with us when all else falls away. Temptation is another part of our human experience, one that often feels overwhelming. And while there are many ways to protect ourselves against it, sometimes the simplest and most effective defense is fear. Cowardice, if you will. It's not always glamorous, but it can save us from ourselves. And let's face it, we've all learned by now that arguing with a fool is a losing game. Onlookers may not even be able to tell who the fool is. So what's the point? We can't control everything in life. Sometimes the greatest inventions are born out of sheer accident. It's a humbling reminder that life is unpredictable, and so are we. Even our politicians, well, they're like diapers, needing to be changed often for obvious reasons. And the truth is, no matter how much we demand respect from others, deep down, no one fully respects themselves. We're all carrying the weight of our own insecurities. As we grow older, memory becomes a fickle thing. We struggle to recall events, question whether they even happened, and eventually we may find ourselves only able to remember things that never occurred. There's a bittersweet truth in watching ourselves slowly unravel with age. It's a reminder of life's fleeting nature, a somber realization, yet beautiful in its own way. Humor, after all, doesn't arise from joy but from sorrow. It's a way we cope with the complexity of life's emotions. Words are powerful, yes, but sometimes it's the pauses between them that leave the biggest impact. In conversations that matter, the silence speaks louder than any sentence ever could. A clever person doesn't just know the rules, they know how to navigate the unspoken dynamics at play, whether it's in a courtroom or in life. And in a world filled with deception, honesty has become something of a lost art. But those who master it wield a power far greater than deception could ever offer. As we navigate our lives, seeking meaning and fulfillment, let's remember that the answers we're looking for often lie in the spaces between the laughter and the tears, between the noise and the silence, between what we think we know and what we're still learning. Life is complex, and so are we. But that's what makes it all so worth living. When anger swells, count to 4. And if we find ourselves in the grips of intense rage, a well-timed curse can sometimes provide relief that even the most heartfelt prayer cannot. It's a curious contradiction revealing the raw essence of our humanity. We often believe we have mastery over our emotions, but in those charged moments, it becomes evident that our feelings can often wield power over us. Be careless in your attire if you wish, but always maintain a tidy soul. This isn't merely about our external appearance. It speaks volumes about living with intention and integrity. Our soul is our essence, the core of who we are. If we nurture that inner sanctum, everything else in our lives tends to fall into alignment. When we lose sight of this fundamental truth, we expose ourselves to the inevitable storms that life will unleash. Prosperity, therefore, serves as a formidable shield for our principles, protecting us from the ethical dilemmas that often emerge during times of financial distress. When we are not ensnared by the survival instinct, we gain the freedom to act in accordance with our deepest values. Don't forget the seductive allure of the forbidden. It holds a captivating power that can make even the most mundane things feel irresistible. Why is it that we are drawn to what we cannot have? This magnetic pull towards the unknown highlights the complexities of human desire. The moment we categorize something as off-limits, we inadvertently elevate its desirability, creating a longing that often distracts us from what truly matters. When we train ourselves to focus on our experiences appropriately, we begin to appreciate that no event in life is insignificant. Disappointment, it's not something to be feared or avoided. Instead of succumbing to despair, we can reframe it as a catalyst for growth. A man has no reason to wallow in sorrow over setbacks. Rather, he should view them as valuable lessons. Each disappointment can be transformed into a stepping stone, leading us to new heights. There's a certain tragedy in witnessing a young pessimist, a contradiction to the potential and vitality that youth embodies. We need to approach the world with open hearts and minds, embracing its imperfections and the inherent unpredictability of life. Let's turn our attention to the heart, which operates according to its own rhythms and cannot be tamed by logic. It beats with passions that our intellect may dismiss or struggle to comprehend. This dynamic is the beauty and challenge of being human. As we age, particularly after we reach 40, many of our habits begin to solidify, becoming entrenched in our character. It's essential to be discerning about what we allow to crystallize within us. We should seek to extract wisdom from our experiences while shedding the unnecessary burdens that may weigh us down. Honesty is a powerful weapon. Speaking our truth can confound our adversaries and astonish our allies alike. It's a simple yet profound principle to embrace. Remember, our opinions only begin to take root when we share them with others. This highlights the significance of dialogue and connection in our lives. We flourish in the company of others, where our ideas can be nurtured and refined. Truth is our most cherished asset, and we must wield it judiciously. Life is not just a collection of facts or events. It's a swirling tempest of thoughts and feelings that shape our reality. And let's be honest, a man is never more genuine than when he admits to being less than truthful. It's a striking paradox that invites us to reflect deeply on our nature. We often find ourselves captivated by extremes. The intensely bad can be just as satisfying as the intensely good. What truly becomes unbearable is the mediocrity that lies in between. A true gentleman recognizes the need for discretion in social settings, particularly when it comes to revealing harsh truths in the presence of those who may not be prepared for them. Navigating social interactions requires sensitivity and grace. Honesty is the best policy, especially when financial gain is at stake. Yet irony abounds, as some individuals choose to deceive even when the truth would suffice. This complicated interplay between honesty and perception adds layers of nuance to our interactions. This is the art of living, balancing the chaos of emotion with the clarity of thought. It's about embracing both the primal and refined aspects of our humanity. As we navigate this delicate dance, we discover our true strength and resilience, ultimately leading us to a richer, more meaningful existence. So, let's take this journey together, learning from one another and celebrating the beautiful complexity of being human. The secret to success lies not just in our daily grind, but in transforming our vocation into a vacation. When we immerse ourselves in work we love, that very work becomes a sanctuary rather than a burden. Imagine waking up each morning, not dreading the day ahead, but embracing the joy of what we do. It's about feeling the thrill of creation, the satisfaction of contribution, and the excitement of learning. Just as the flames of experience forge the strongest steel, through our missteps and wrongdoings, we gain invaluable wisdom. Each mistake is not merely a setback, but a stepping stone toward deeper understanding and growth. We've all grappled with the art of communication. How often do we find ourselves wrestling with the truth? Sometimes, it feels like we're telling a lie that no one would doubt or a truth that no one seems to believe. This complexity is a hallmark of human interaction. We watch as a lie can traverse half the globe in a heartbeat, while the truth laces up its shoes, taking its time to catch up. This stark contrast highlights our society's tendency to cling to sensationalism rather than the often quieter, more nuanced reality. Being good can sometimes feel isolating. In a world that often craves drama, those who choose kindness may find themselves standing alone. Yet, we must remember this wisdom. Discover a job that ignites our passion, and we will never work a day in our lives. It's in these little moments of joy and comfort, the mundane delights, where we find true happiness. The act of expressing ourselves, be it through art, conversation, or even a simple smile, can lead to profound fulfillment. Consider the idea of courage. To believe oneself brave is to be brave. It's an innate quality that needs no applause or recognition. But how often do we seek validation from others? True bravery lies in our ability to act, regardless of the opinions around us. And think about novelty. There's a limit to how many times we can be surprised by the same marvel. Each new experience fuels our human interest, reminding us of the beauty of discovery. Yet, how many among us, capable of extraordinary feats, struggle to share our happiness with those who feel stuck in their own shadows? This reveals a poignant truth. Our limitations often stem from our inability to connect with others in their times of sorrow. Laughter is a universal balm. It is a force against which nothing can withstand. The subtle difference between the almost right word and the right word is vast. It's the gap between the flicker of a lightning bug and the dazzling brilliance of a lightning strike. We often exaggerate the merits of those who have passed, cloaking our memories in nostalgia, which can skew our perceptions. The man with a new idea may be dismissed as a dreamer until his vision takes root and blossoms into reality, highlighting the often arduous path innovators must tread. Let us not overlook the simple truth that in every individual there is something to respect, admire, and love. A baby, with its untainted innocence, is an immeasurable blessing. Yet, with enough imagination, reality can be transformed, reminding us of the power of perspective. Sanity and happiness can create an intricate tapestry, often weaving tension into our daily lives. And think about censorship. Restricting knowledge is like telling someone they cannot have a steak simply because a baby cannot chew it. It's a vivid reminder of the absurdity of such limitations. Those who radiate genuine happiness become conduits of joy for others, creating a beautiful ripple effect in our interconnected lives. Thunder may dazzle us with its roar, but it is the lightning that does the work. A metaphor for the unseen forces driving change around us. And let's not forget the nature of our desires. Unexpected money can be a delightful surprise, but when we start to expect more, that same amount can turn bitter, reflecting our insatiable human nature. Our habits may serve as shields for our lives, yet what nurtures one soul may stifle another's growth. There are two critical moments when we should steer clear of speculation: when we cannot afford it, and when we can. Grief, with all its heaviness, can teach us the importance of joy, yet we must share our happiness to truly savor it. It is far better to deserve honors and lack them than to possess honors without deserving them. The integrity of our character far outweighs any external validation we might seek. How hard it is that we must die is a lament we often hear, especially from those who have faced life's toughest trials. We frequently find ourselves more eager to be acknowledged for talents we don't possess than to receive praise for those we genuinely hold. Continuous improvement surpasses the pursuit of perfection, a vital truth in our quest for growth. No grief is insignificant, whether it's the loss of a child's cherished toy or a king's crown. Both events carry weight in the grand tapestry of existence. Let's be mindful never to reveal our truths to those unworthy of them. The value of truth diminishes when held in the hands of the unappreciative. A full belly is of little consequence when the mind remains starved for knowledge and understanding. One thing we often discover is that there's no clearer way to gauge our feelings towards someone than to travel together. These shared experiences often illuminate the best and worst parts of us. In our nation, we seem divided, with half calling themselves patriots and the other half traitors. Yet none can discern which is which. An elderly person ought to guard three things closely: their ailments, for the world has its own to bear; their troubles, which often seem trivial to others; and their wealth, for envy can be a sharper blade than the knife of poverty. It is indeed necessity that births risk-taking. The ability to find creative solutions to life's challenges fosters personal growth and resilience. Human pride can be fleeting, always shadowed by something ready to deflate it. The best way to uplift ourselves is to seek to uplift those around us. Good breeding involves concealing how highly we regard ourselves while diminishing the significance we place on others. A wise person strategically distances themselves from three types of people: those who borrow without repaying, those who promise but never deliver, and those who listen but do not truly hear. In the end, to be busy is to find happiness. Our purpose often lies in our engagement with life itself. Good friends, good books, and a tranquil conscience create the ideal life, an aspiration we should all strive toward. As we reflect on our journeys, let us remember the multitude of troubles we have encountered, most of which never truly materialized. This serves as a testament to the intricate nature of human experience, where fear often overshadows reality, and our minds create illusions that divert us from the truth of our existence. So let us embrace our paths, our journeys, and the lessons we glean along the way. Together, we can cultivate understanding, foster connection, and share in the beauty of our shared humanity.